Und los! Living Room wird präsentiert von Sound.
Bills throwing Swiss francs. Before I die, I want my money in a Swiss bank. I can see right through these haters, fish tanks. Plus they frowning at my watch like my wrist stink. Bills foreign, Swiss francs.
As a kid, you had a car accident, and you had a, how do you call that, a plate? I don't know the exact English word for it.
Yeah.
In your head, right?
Well, I didn't get a plate in my head, but I did suffer a fracture. My skull was fractured. I was in Canada with my father. I was up there my mother's cousin runs a karate dojo, and I was there to study karate. And we were there, and a car came off of the highway and up on the sidewalk and hit me. And, my father tried to pull me out of the way, and I was so light that I kind of flew into the air and actually hit a billboard. That's how far up I was actually projected into the air and bounced off of the billboard head first and just suffered a fracture to my skull. And, my parents joke, hey, that's what made you so smart. That's why you went to Harvard so young.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I got photos of it, and it was so interesting when I look at the photos. I'm kind of standing there with a basket with I guess some balloons and a bear and everything. And even though my skull is swollen like the size of a grapefruit here, it still just seemed like, hey, I guess I have to take this picture, but I'm ready to get back to life, get right back up and keep going.
I mean, that's a heavy thing, and maybe that's why you were even more ambitious. I don't know. Do you think that had an extra influence on how ambitious you are in life?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I really barely remember that happening.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, besides the photographs.
Yeah.
And it's really barely remember it. And I do remember this, that there was I was knocked unconscious, and there were two voices that I remember. One, I believe, was a police officer that woke me up and said, hey, stay awake. And I remember waking up, opening my eyes, and just trying to make sure I could move my feet, because I said, oh man, I don't want to be paralyzed. This is what I'm thinking as a young child. I want to be able to run and play basketball,
of course,
and still do karate. So I would, move my feet, so I would make sure I can actually, send neurological signals all the way down to the full extremity of my body. And then I feel like I knocked out again, and then when I woke up again, it was a neurosurgeon or a neurologist. I don't know whether it was a surgeon neurologist. And I remember at that point, it was something that I ran around saying all the time. Oh, I want to be a neurologist. So someone saved my life. I feel like I could save somebody else's life. And then I realized that you have to do what you love to do. And I, from the time I was very young, I just loved music so much. I saw my mother and father. That's how they fell in love. My father started a band so my mother could come be the lead singer, because, that was his way of saying, hey, I just want to spend as much time as I possibly can with you. So they would rehearse together. They would do shows together. And so, yeah, there's a certain level of romance and allure to that. And I said, I want to do music too. And
wait a minute. Is there a woman you started that for?
Say again?
Like your dad? Is there a woman you made all this for? Where he said, like, I want to spend every single minute with you. Maybe she is the jet pilot. I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you look at the Cassie trajectory, when I wrote that album, and, we were running around New York, two young kids, I mean, I stopped everything in my life, to just watch that, blossom the way that it did. I mean, it was such an amazing time. I mean, Facebook had only been around for a year. MySpace was really taking off. The music that we made together, there was a certain magic to it when people listen to Addiction or Me and You. Yeah. And so, I mean, there was that, and then my second album, Transition, it was written for another young lady that I had been introduced to in New York, and I spent all my time, traveled around. When I was in Berlin just now for the Straight Outta Compton screening, I sent her an email. I said, you know what, remember that time I flew all the way to Berlin just for a day to come see you? And we went to the studio, and I made the record Guardian Angel, you know, and she said, "Oh yeah, those were the old days, you know."
Now I wonder.
Yeah.
I always wondered. Did you have a romantic relationship with Cassie at that time?
Yeah, absolutely. That was my heart. That was everything. She literally my life, my heart, my everything, and you know, I guess that's interesting to people because it's human. It's about a human connection, you know. But yeah, we did everything together, you know. Music, traveling. My first real tour in Europe was with her. So yeah.
I don't know if you have a relationship right now with a woman, but this person has to be an artist to, get along your side?
I think we're all artists as human beings, right? So if you have a Facebook profile, you have an Instagram profile, you're curating the way that you want to be seen by the rest of the world.
That's true, yeah.
So my team, man, we were just driving right now and just, I didn't even have to guess. I could just look back. There was a beautiful passage on the roadway. I didn't even have to think. I already knew that, my tour manager was going to be on Snapchat, with
Okay.
the,
He's
So,
smiling
yeah.
back there, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a Snapchat king, And I mean, we're all artists in certain ways. We want to be able to curate the way that people perceive us in life. I was just having a conversation with him last night. He said, "Oh, I need my own photographer. I need to post up pictures so people can see, what I'm doing, who I'm hanging out with, and so we're all artists. So I think that on a human level, it's just more about understanding, someone that understands and wants, to work towards the same goal, which is to change as many lives as possible. And however that is, whether that's with music, whether that's with an example through business, whether that's through helping me build my technology company, whether that's through raising children so that they can actually reach out and touch as many people as possible, whether that is through philanthropy. I remember going with Kenza Ferrati, who was just my ace, like my partner for the years during Les's Morning. We went to the Ivory Coast together to visit hospitals, and then we went back to America and we raised $1 million. Basically sent $1 million worth of medical supplies back to the Ivory Coast. I mean, I have so many dreams and so many goals and so many, and, coming from a Salvation Army background, just so many ways in which I want to impact the world. So, yeah, I mean, they don't necessarily have to be a singer or a dancer, but I think, to be artistic and creative is just, it's inspiring to me. But I'm also just inspired by just beauty in general,
I mean, those girlfriends which are known, they were all models. They were looking absolutely fabulous, right? You have a good taste, I have to say.
Thank you.
Hey, I really hope that you will find that special someone like your dad found in your mother and, have beautiful babies and keep on doing great music. I mean, you promised us every month a song.
Right.
And you know what? We're at the end of the interview. I could talk to you for hours, I guess. And now, one last thing. I know the interview is over for a while,
sure.
but I could keep talking.
Yeah.
The thing with the sleep, you have now a new way where you sleep 2 to 3 hours a night, and then you have the same amount of energy as I do, who sleeps at least 8 hours.
Well, you can ask my team,
I mean, that's not possible after
yeah.
so many years.
Yeah, I mean, we're going on my 7th tour, and I'll tell you this, the first time that we actually had a tour bus, there were beds in the tour bus, and you can ask anyone on the tour. I never touched a bed in the tour bus, So literally after the show, I would go onto the bus, set up my computer, and I was cutting, and I still do. I cut all my own videos. I mean, I have interns and young people that I mentor who are going to get to that level where they can cut at the level that I personally want to see for myself. But that's what I was doing every single night, reviewing footage, and almost like a basketball player or a football player, every single night after the show, reviewing the footage of the show, and then sitting down with the band and saying, look, we should do this differently, we should do that differently. And I mean, that's why I think after all these years with, I would say, diminishing awareness, diminishing presence in the marketplace, we still have folks that will come to the show because they know, look, you know, I heard Ryan's show is 2.5 hours long. I mean, in some cities we played for 4 hours just because that's how much we love music.
I mean, if I was your doctor, I would say, Ryan, stop. You need sleep, man.
You know,
Like, had you ever had a point where your body says, enough, I'm done?
Yeah, and it was on stage, you know. So I was on stage, and you know, early in my career, I would always hunch over when I was performing because I want to get as close to the people as possible. I want it to be intense. I'm leaning in, and after a while, it created a curvature in my spine that was unhealthy, and eventually led to a herniated disc in my lower back. And so there was a concert where I was on stage, and literally just the pain was agonizing. And I got through the concert, but we actually had to have a doctor come and give me an injection, a painkiller, which I don't really, you know, I lead a pretty, very simple life in terms of, you know, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't smoke weed. You know, I have nothing against it for people that use it to get, to be creative in the studio, but that's just not anything that I've ever depended on. And so for me to actually have to get an injection of medicine as a painkiller, you know, it let me know, like, okay, you need to make sure you watch it, you know, and take care. So then, you know, for future tours, I actually I have a trainer on tour, stretches me out. I have a pre-show ritual, push-ups, and yeah, man, you know, just I try to eat healthy and
You know,
keep my physique
I respect that a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of, you know, artists, especially in the rap game, who live healthy.
Yeah.
And you know, people out there, you can be healthy and super, you know, at the same time. You don't have to do drugs and stuff.
Yeah.
I really
mean,
respect
you
that a
know,
lot.
listen, I think that there's a pathway in life for everyone, right? And so, you know, some of our greatest artists, so I can't be upset, right? Some of our greatest artists, and we could talk about Jimi Hendrix, you know, they were into psychedelic drugs, you know, and they came and they left, you know. So me, I've been in the game so long, and Jimi Hendrix was here for 3 years, and a lot more people in the world know Jimmy than they know me, right? And so I think that for artists, as humans, we emulate success. We emulate the heroes that we have. And so if you want to be a rock star, then, you know, you look at the rock stars of the 60s and 70s, and you saw what they did and the way that they lived and the attitude they had and the chemicals they ingested, you know, to get to that level, to really get to that level of fearlessness. And, you know, I can't blame some artists for saying, hey, let me try that. I want to see where it takes me mentally. I want to see where it takes me creatively, you know. And even if your life is shorter, I mean, our lives are always going to be measured by what we give to the world. And so if you decide that you know, are trying out substances to give more to the world, our life is short. Tomorrow's not promised. I mean, I can go out on the street right now and some crazy Swiss driver just take me out, you know?
Happen, yeah.
And so for me, it's just about making sure you just give the most in whatever you do and whatever you need to do that, you know.
All
You gotta
right.
do it.
Thank you very much for giving us so much time.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys. I've been selfish. I've been talking a lot.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the interview.
Yeah,
Thank
I
you very
appreciate
much.
this interview too. This was
Right.
Looks like my wrist stink. Bills foreign, Swiss francs. Before I die, stack my money in a Swiss bank. I can see right through these haters. Fish tanks.